Hey guys! I finally found a way not to lose concentration when I listen to the podcast, and 2 episodes of Vows and Vengeance revealed more information about our future companions in the Veilguard. It was inspirational. So today we will examine Emmrich using our usual prediction card and art analysis with tons of symbolism, psychology of his character arc, and even deeper hints of spirituality than before. After all, Emmrich is a death mage, and spirits are a natural part of his mundane life. Let's start talking. Emmrich Valkarian is a necromancer and a scholar, serving in the Mourn Watch for over 30 years. The Mourn Watch serve as the elite guardians and keepers of the Grand Necropolis and its sacred repository of the dead. They also deal with magic that has gone wrong, especially related to Nevaran funerary rites and corpse possession. The Mourn Watchers have absolute authority over funerary dead in Nevarra. So Emmrich's role revolves around protecting the living and innocents from the dangers of the occult and delving into the mysteries of the fate and spirits. Though he walks the delicate line between the living and the dead, Emmrich differs from his cynical colleagues. He appears noble, expressing a gentlemanly code of behavior. He is a polite and well-mannered gentleman, defined by his graceful, almost aristocratic diplomacy and readiness to help those who cry for help.
Perhaps these murals aren't simply memories. They're what Solus wishes to forget.
From his carefully adjusted collar pin to his mindful interactions, he is the type of individual who believes in navigating life's challenges with honor, civility, and a touch of charm. However, these noble ideals can't go unchallenged as he faces the gritty, morally imperfect world of Thedas, where treachery and cruelty often prevail over politeness and fairness. Though his early life remains largely unknown, Emmrich's time in the Mourn Watch and his deep involvement with spirits, both inquisitive and malevolent, suggest a man driven by duty and intellectual curiosity. His bond with Manfred, a spirit born of curiosity whom Emmrich treats as a son, adds additional depth to his character. While Emmrich is an academic at heart, his relationship with Manfred could unravel his nurturing side, proving he's more than just a solitary scholar. Yes, he introduces Manfred as his friend and assistant, but his motives of keeping him close and teaching him with great enthusiasm will add an unforeseen depth to his character arc. Why did he give Manfred a chance to be a part of his life? There was a reason why I stalled slicing Emmrich and his concept art. There were details in his attire that confused me, and talking about him without extra context would be a poor analysis. It's obvious why Emmrich has an image of a skull in every possible and probably impossible place. However, I didn't expect to see one particular detail and contrast in his color palette. Subconsciously, it directed me to something that didn't represent an elite guardian and a scholar. It didn't make any sense to his background story as well, and you know that everything has a meaning in concept art and every little thing expresses a character's life. I'll give you a minute to figure out what detail I'm talking about. Maybe you will see it without my help. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is geometry. You remember that shapes matter in concept art. If you are new here, please enjoy the playlist with other art analysis where I explained everything in detail. At first, you see that a regular hexagon appears everywhere. The stone tiles in Nevarra Grand Necropolis, statues, and little details in Emmrich's armor. Both of them, by the way. A hexagon is a complex yet static shape. It could be a circle surrounded by angles or a carefully sliced square shedding at angles as if it's been through some tough times. However, what bothered me was his second dominant shape. A cone. I couldn't understand the language of this concept art until I noticed the detail that I've told you about a couple of minutes earlier. And then it all clicked. Emmrich's attitude to death, his age, his attire, the shapes, and, believe it or not, even Manfred. Emmrich is a character with the jester archetype in its highest positive form that few people manage to acquire during their lifetime. I spoke about 3 out of 12 archetypes a long time ago. Today, I'll briefly introduce the system that I use so that you can easily follow this analysis. An archetype is a primitive mental image inherited from the earliest human ancestors and supposed to be present in the collective unconscious. In simpler words, without a psychoanalysis vibe, it's a recognizable print of a particular behavioral and visual model that expresses a unique set of values which all of us can recognize and understand. It is a sequence of 12 dominant stages that reflect a behavioral pattern of psychological growth and spiritual transformation. They are also used in literature, marketing, psychology, and art more often than you think. I won't talk about all 12 archetypes here as it might take a couple of hours, but we will examine 2 of them that are extremely important to Emmrich and his character. So, the system that I work with has 12 dominant archetypes that follow each other, creating a spiral where every turn is either a step up or a fall down in your personal development. If you fail to learn your lesson, it is inevitable that you will fall and encounter the same situation over and over again. It becomes a pattern or a script for your character. The first archetype is the child. It is the easiest archetype to recognize because we come into this world and reality as children. Growing up, many of us heard or said, "Stop acting like a child." After these words, we understand without any explanation what should be done and what behavioral model must be removed from the situation. Considering everything we know about Emmrich's vocation and behavior, he is supposed to be the sage archetype, a wise man due to his age, knowledge, and isolation from the living. Technically, he is surrounded by the dead spirits and skeletons most of his time, so it is expected. Everything matches the description of the sage. And the rules dictate us to expect something like this, while we are getting this. This was intentional, and believe me, you will be surprised to learn what Jester represents in the world of the living. Emmrich is a death mage and a necromancer. What can represent it on a subconscious level? A skull, of course. Now look how a typical Jester merges with the topic of death. Concept art takes inspiration from 5 to 3 references and merges them into one, creating a unique character. Jesters have plenty of cones in their clothes. They are softer than a normal geometrical shape, but they're still cones. We can also see high collars, bells, and color contrast. A lot of angles and accessories. They have a wand or a staff with a head on the top. Here's how we will adapt it. Take the Navarian hexagon and add a cone to create a spiral pattern. You can actually see it in 2 different sets of armor. Also, we can slice a cone into 2 parts and use it for his shoulders. Take a side angle of a cone with a bell on its end, twist it and put it upside down and use it as a pattern on his clothes. Replace a head with a skull and add a spiral, and here we are. Also, let's not forget his room with a spiral staircase. What a hypnotizing gentleman we have here. So many details and so many complexities. And if you think that that's it for the spiral symbolism, you are wrong. It is time for some personal journey and the spiral of life. Technically, each archetype is made so that we can learn our lessons and find where we belong. The cycle is simple: pain, honoring experience, expressing gratitude, and leveling up to a new step. It's a spiral of human development that ends with death. And there is one archetype that knows a lot about death. The Jester is an archetype of a royal court. It is the 12th and final step on the spiral. Jesters absorbed all previous archetypes and have a pinch of everything at once, using their behavioral models like masks, but in a good way, to comfort people or to make them laugh. This element adds a new cross to Emmrich's card. He is too old, but in a good, spiritual way. The Jester is the final stage of a person's development when they realize that life and death matter only if you give them meaning. Your life has as much value as you choose to believe in it, and the funniest thing is, it's an illusion, an act. And Jesters know a lot about performance. They appreciate life because they breathe air and enjoy the irrational comedy of human existence. Jesters love breaking the rules of bureaucratic, academic, and mundane life because it doesn't make any sense to them. They are entertainers and help others have fun and find creative ways to solve problems. They have extraordinary wit, use creativity and resourcefulness to get what they want. They change masks, adapting to any possible situation playfully and with grace. They are somewhat of wise fools as they see the absurdity and hypocrisy of life, therefore choosing to rise above it. They have a strong connection to death because they understand that life is happening here and now, in this particular moment. And the moment is always gone the second you think about it. This aspect of their mindset, or philosophy if you want to call it, forces Jesters to tell the truth through satire, irony, or parody that might hurt others. Because of that, we will give Emmrich a new cross on his card: unorthodox thinker. Of course, these traits represent a positive key of this archetype. The negative or shadow side of any Jester is laziness, sloppiness, inability to finish what was started, frivolous attitude towards everything, and dissolving your wit into weaknesses such as addictions, physical isolation from the living, or using your creativity and wit to deceive and scam people. Knowing that about the shadow side of the Jester archetype, it is unbelievable that a man with such a gentle manner of speaking and devotion to the Mourn Watch could have suffered from such a dark presence in his life. I strongly believe that we will learn something about Emmrich's past that will surprise us with its shallowness or even malice. For that, he gets his third cross: dark past. Let's imagine that Emmrich has learned his lessons and transformed himself into the best possible version he could become, walking up the spiral of life. In that case, it's only natural to expect to see him sharing his wisdom and experience with others. Emmrich's gentle manly manners are evident in his attitude towards spirits. He approaches them not as tools to be manipulated, but as beings deserving respect and understanding. Whether speaking to a spirit lost in grief or communicating with demons threatening the world of the living, Emmrich remains polite and curious, always seeking to understand their motivations rather than simply dominate them. His interactions with the restless dead often reveal his empathy, as he patiently listens and offers guidance, especially to those who seek peace. The dead and spirits can't experience a material world and develop themselves through positive keys and shadow sides. They need to be living, breathing humans for that, or at least express the core emotion of the first archetype. The child. The child archetype is an embodiment of curiosity. Manfred is a spirit of curiosity. He creates a dynamic with Emmrich, letting him share his knowledge to continue the natural cycle of life. You see, when a person wants to experience something new, it is mandatory to take a leap of faith, become a fool, and start a journey again as a clueless child filled with curiosity. The jester and the child are always connected, as they represent a bond of never-ending life experience for humanity. The fact that Emmrich is not just a jester, he is a final archetype who was afraid to become a child again, so he found himself a child in the form of a spirit of curiosity. I think it's an incredibly beautiful and surprisingly deep character arc, because Emmrich is incomplete without Manfred. A potential crisis in his journey might be hidden in questions of preserving knowledge, understanding that taking a leap of faith is necessary if you want to change your life, or in meaningless usage of his wit and talents to save the world. I mean, the world always attempts to die with every new blight or with elven gods popping out of the ground like deep mushrooms. Also, if you choose to romance Emmrich, you should expect a surprisingly good love story and a love triangle, because Manfred is not going anywhere. As I said, Emmrich is incomplete without him. Considering the Discord Q&A session with the devs last month, or 2 months ago, don't remember exactly, so someone asked if we could kiss Manfred. And the reply was, no, but we aren't saying there won't be any skeleton kisses. So I expect to see some variation of Manfred acting like a child with Rook and expressing his curiosity in parent-child dynamic. It will not be a romantic kiss or hug, yet it will give extra depth to Emmrich's romance line. There was a time when we studied concept artworks and predicted that one of the companions would be an undead. Well, if that was the idea, it changed into something new. The way we can't see a character with a shotgun, or whatever that is, I think it's a shotgun, or a gentle, curvy canary lady, or a sensual, sexy female, the very same way we will not see an undead. Those ideas have transformed. The only undead in Emmrich's character arc is Manfred. I sincerely believe that one character was split into two. Emmrich and Manfred are inseparable now, but they must transform each other into two different and independent characters. This is yet another milestone for their story. I think it's a good question. Why will fans love Emmrich? So let's start a discussion. Is there something that you already like about him and Manfred? Or is he the most tedious character in your opinion? Will you add more crosses to his card? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more lore analysis and fun videos, because the Veilguard is almost here and I will have tons of new information to share. As you can imagine, I've been studying Emmrich for a month or so. I find him fascinating, and my first Rook will romance him because of the character's depth and gentleness he expresses towards both worlds, the material and spiritual. I have a weird feeling that if Emmrich was a real person, we would talk for hours and then spend time in silence without any awkwardness thinking about grand schemes of life and death. I guess he is the most bewitching character for me in The Veilguard. And it will be heartbreaking if he is a hard person to deal with and romance. Have fun, play video games, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!